Welcome back to some professional Starcraft 2 from IEM Katowice 2019. But we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to look through the eyes of these top-tier pro gamers throughout the series. Going to be switching off between soO and Serral. soO, the man who lost more GSL finals than anyone else has ever been in. And Serral needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyways. The BlizzCon World Champion. Now, I watch these games live, but we're going to be watching the first-person views. It also, by the way, spoilers, this series includes one of the best, not only Zerg versus Zergs, but one of the best games of StarCraft in history. One of the most exciting, in that, it's not this one, but it's one of the other ones. What could it be? And also, the whole series was very entertaining, but, I think looking, well, through the eyes of these pro gamers as they attempt to give us motion sickness is very important for learning details, I guess. This is what I see players of, especially the higher levels. Lower levels, we're still stumbling around trying to figure out which way is up. But when it comes to learning exactly what players see, what they're focusing on, the decisions they make, watching... There's really no substitute for watching first person. I mean, of course, players like soO and Serral occasionally stream, but this is a tournament for more money than anything but BlizzCon, 150,000 for first. They're not pulling any punches here. They're not doing their standard ladder builds. They're giving us their best and seeing if it's good enough. So, I will have the production tab up. You can see the supply. Of course, normally players cannot see this. They don't see the little drone icons. But otherwise, we're watching soO's vision, the way he moves the camera, what he selects. And you can tell these players both, a statistic that is relevant and is a big reason why these players are so good is not just APM, of which they have plenty, but screens per minute. The ability to move your camera around. It's not charted by the game itself, but there are third-party programs like SC2 Replay Stats that give you an idea. But players of this caliber are regularly 40, 50, even 60 screens per minute, which means essentially once every second or even faster, they're moving to a different part of the map and doing something different. The ability to manage all these things so quickly is just as, if not more important than APM, especially in drawn-out games or things like ZVZ, where Lings and Banes can be all over the place. But we'll get down to the builds themselves. We've got Zergling speed on the way for both sides. soO has opted for a third base early on. He's also spotted with the early Overlords that Serral is going for that third. On this map, it's Port Alexander. Your Overlords are relatively safe. They're not going to be sniped off by Queens because there are two ramps on the either side outside the natural. Zerglings have to come out of that area. If there's going to be a big flood of Zerglings, they have to go out past the vision range of those Ovies. And both players have to assume that the Ovies are spotting those areas as well. So any Zerglings they send out will be immediately spotted. Zergling speed finishes. At this level, there's usually a dance of Ling Baneling. But rarely will a player fully commit to an all-in, because the defender's advantage is simply too good. And while a Baneling can potentially kill a huge chunk of Zerglings, the vast majority of the time it will not. And that means if you invested in more Zerglings, you're behind. You have less drones, because every set of Zerglings you make is not a drone, fun fact. As you see now, both players, he doesn't know for sure. soO doesn't know that Serral has a Baneling nest 100%. But he knows he has Zergling speed, which is more times than not followed up with a Baneling nest. The only risk here, and now he sees the Banes. That's all he needs to see. He sees how many Zerglings that Serral has. The Baneling split off. He's trying to box out. Not enough. And that tells him there's not a big roach hole incoming. Serral's probably going to try to drone up, but I do have to have some basic defense. The worker count right now is about even. The dance back and forth is when players make units and their opponent doesn't really have anything to match, then their opponent has to make units. So we kind of seesaw back and forth in the worker count. Now both are getting a scouted drone count. soO has already seen enough. He's already seen the third. There's a queen down there. It was Ling Bane, but just based on the fact that Serral is not pressuring now, it's almost certainly a lair, and then potentially and probably roaches. You can't guarantee it, and there's no reason not to be aggressive here. He has vision. There's no way he's going to get caught on the map if he's on top of it. So we just dance back and forth. It's both players poking at each other, seeing how many drones you got. How many drones you got? So that reminds me, I should put the score up here. I like using the default observer interface because this is obviously very close to what you'd have in a game as well.
Our forces are under attack.
As they dance back and forth. There we go. Thank you, Jimmy. Aspire is on the way for soO. He's also got roach speed. Now, what has he seen from Serral? I'm going to go to the camera. He's already seen the evolution chamber. I'm sure he saw it upgrading, as well as a roach warren. So he knows that there's not going to be a super quick spire out of Serral. At this stage, now notice the vision of the overlords as well. This is kind of unique to ZVZ, because in other matchups, you try to have overlords, well, there's a Viking or a Phoenix or something. Not until there's like Hydras, Mutas, or Ravagers are overlords going to be stopped. Now, of course, he sees the stream of units across the map. You can't just go Mutas into Roaches if the Roaches are already at your door. I think right now, soO, that 4th base, is surprisingly confident. He's got the +1 done. He starts +2. A Nidus is backing this up. Now, Banelings do extra damage to buildings. He can use that if he can actually stop the Nidus here, but this is a twist I don't think soO was perfectly expecting. Because that Nidus is not going to be stopped. He doesn't have enough Banelings. It takes 4 Banelings. There's another Nidus in the main as well. Serral is streaming in. soO invested in +2 attack. He invested in a Spire, and he invested in a 4th base, all of which are not Roaches. So now he's in a terrible position to actually deal with Roaches. Another Nidus in the main. He still has to deal with that problem. Already 10 drones have gone down. Workers must be pulled here. The problem for soO is Serral's everywhere. The Spire is useless. It was a waste of money. And Serral can actually reposition. It's like Warp Gate with your whole army. The speed at which you can go in and out of the Nidus is incredibly difficult to manage, because now Serral's back to the south. soO has to tap it out. Serral with a masterful Nidus play there. And I think the big oversight, so I think this is important as well. What did soO do wrong? I think soO kind of relied on his assumptions a little bit much. Everybody does this on occasion. You just kind of remember, like most games go Roaches, and then maybe we go Spire or Hydras. And he didn't send an Overseer scout in. He wasn't actively scouting how many Roaches Serral was building. I think if it was just the Roaches and Serral was pressuring and taking a 4th, he's okay. But, or if it was Roach Ravager, he didn't expect the Nidus. He obviously wasn't preparing for it. And Serral kind of got the drop on him. What I'd expect for soO in these matches coming up would be a quicker Overseer scout, like a more constant one, maybe 2 Overseers, and not really just plain default, like sitting back, building Roaches, getting a Spire. A Spire isn't like a sneaky play at this level. It is just a tech choice that must be responded to, but it's not like I'm going to win the game by sneaking out Mutas. That almost never happens. So if he can keep up on what Serral is doing earlier on, then the Spire is a good choice. It forces out a response, but if you die before any Mutas come out, not as good. This is why they pay me the medium bucks. All right, for professional analysis like that. Game 2, we're going to be switching over to the King of the North, the Finnish man himself, to Serral, the BlizzCon champion. And that last game, the Nidus is not super all-in. I'm not sure exactly the drone count that Serral was at. I've got to update that scoreline. But it is a big investment. I question if soO had scouted the Nidus, how Serral would have used it. I doubt he's really committing to a full attack. It's interesting how the Nidus has entered the meta in, now, depending on who you are, what race you play, in certain ways, but it's entered the meta in every matchup. against Terran Zerg and Protoss. Because the changes to the Nidus, it's different than it once was, depending on how far back you go. It can be killed while it's burrowing in. But the network itself only costs 150, which is down from, it was like 200 or 250 before. And the worm only costs 50. So for the low price of 2 banelings, you can get a Nidus worm that has 300 HP and 5 armor. That 5 armor is very important, because things like workers, and even units like Lings and Marines struggle because so much of their damage is blocked. It requires banelings, roaches, or immortals and tanks, stuff like that, in order to stop the Nidus. Otherwise, you literally just can't stop it. It's happening. On top of that, the Nidus sucks units in and blows them out twice as fast as it did, which you can kind of see that on display there by how quickly Serral was able to reposition his roaches to and from the main of soO. Now, with all that in mind, I don't think we'll see another Nidus, at least this game or the next. It is still, in ZVZ especially, a bit of a gotcha strat. And Serral, soO got complacent, so he got him, but I don't expect to see that happen again. Once again, this is the Overlord. This is something you can copy straight up from these players, where they send their Overlords. Overlords are not a super speedy reactionary unit. They take it slow. So every game, these players have a path that they're going to send their OVs. They might adjust it based on information, but especially in ZVZ, these OVs are going to the same spot every time. You can just be like, all right, first Overlord goes directly towards the main, and then gets a spot on how many drones are building, whether a queen is building. By the way, that's what Serral's going in for there. What is the larva being used on? Because you can stick around long enough to see some of the larva on an early hatchery, or if they went early hatchery. And then the second Overlord is usually in position to back it up and scout for a third, potentially being taken. While Serral has his Overlord, it's not at the third. He will see if a drone goes down towards the third, and he'll get information on that count. As well as having his Overlord spread, so that way, if one of the OVs is pushed away by queens, the other one can kind of pick up the slack, or at least maintain knowledge of the fact that a bunch of Zerglings can be coming out. You know, the best part of the first person of watching the player camera is that my hands are free. Because I talk with my hands more than with my mouth, which leaves them very tired. So. +1 ranged attack already on the way. The same thing is true for soO, but Serral doesn't know that. He's building enough Zerglings to make it look, well, ideally here. Serral baits out Zerglings and Banelings. If he gets soO to build Banelings or play defensive, he's in a good spot. But right now, he can't tell it's +1 ranged attack. But if a Zerg building is having a little mini seizure, that means it's upgrading. And it's very unlikely, based on what Serral has seen, that that's going to be. He already knows there's no Zergling speed. That Zergling does not have speed. He's checking for a Nidus, which is a big risk. Now, honestly, I'm not sure how he stops a Nidus, if that is the choice. Because the Zerglings, even if the Zerglings start attacking it as it starts, I'm pretty sure the Zerglings don't stop it on their own. He sees the Roach Warren upgrading now. Once again, he can't see the little icon, but he sees the Roach Warren freaking out. And he knows this is a 2-base. You can't really call it an all-in. You can't really call it an all-in. Why? Because ZVZ is kind of a low economy game. If Serral gets too many drones here, he's just going to die all out. And it is not incumbent upon soO to actually do critical damage. If Serral is contained for long enough, or if he's forced to overmake defenses or something like that, then soO is still in an okay spot. He can easily take a third and transition off it. That's what I mean. He's got 37 drones. He's actually adding a couple more. Usually you go up to around 40 to 44 for what he's doing. So here's the thing for Serral. He didn't have a lair. This is seemingly a conscious choice because he wants to have the +1. I'm actually a little confused as to why the lair was so low. Because roach speed versus not roach speed is... Having roach speed is better. Now, there was, in this scenario where Serral took a third, he was not going to get roach speed quicker. It wasn't going to happen. but he's still a long way off from it. He's going to try to buy as much time as possible. The queens must be pulled. This is something Serral always does. He has queens on a hotkey, ready to be pulled, like Select All Army, but just for queens, which aren't pulled by the Select All Army hotkey, thankfully. You can see his hotkeys right now. He's bringing the Lings back. There is no third. The Overlords are in place to see the third. Now he sees the Roaches coming down. No speed is done. Creep works both ways. There's enough buffer for now. Both players have +1 missile attacks, which is a huge... The ranged attacks are very important in ZVZ, because Roaches attack slowly, but the upgrade gives them a significant amount of extra damage. And it decreases the time to kill, or shots to kill, of another Roach or Ravager or whatever by a lot. I believe it's 11 attacks with +0 and 9 with +1. Don't quote me on that. But it takes multiple less attacks to kill a Roach. That's why it's a big deal. So Roach Ravager on the high ground. Serral going to use a concave to make sure more of his Roaches are attacking than his opponents. But soO has that speed. He can kind of keep working in and out, in and out. You see Serral doesn't move out of the Corrosive Bile until he needs to. It's very important that, like, 1 or 2 Corrosive Biles don't force all his units back. He needs as many units attacking for as long as possible. Look at those little splits. He knows exactly the radius. There's some transfuses as well. Serral's speed is 2/3 of the way now. +2 attack is on the way for soO. Serral did not start +2 attack. This is important to know. Oh god. And this is something that has made its way back into the meta. I guess. A little tactic. That Overseer comes in, uses Contaminate, and he gets Roach Speed. And this is why having Roach Speed so late is really becoming a struggle for Serral. He doesn't have +2. He's not going to have Roach Speed for another 30-ish seconds. The engagement continues. That just the tiniest moves. Look at that. Just like one step forward. Not by accident. He's moving out. But if he can fight, he's only going to move that 1 or 2 Roaches that could potentially be hit. God. The details here. These players are pretty quick. Around 400 average actions per minute. But the focal point of all this is, of course, the engagement. It appears soO is backed off. And Serral, he's realized that soO is expanding behind this, but he wants to get a beat. How many drones? He sees the gases. He sees the drone count. Serral, make drones now or attack? Well, there's a Nidus. That indicates a bit of desperation. I think he may have realized... clicked on one of the Roaches, seen +2 attack. The fact that soO has this many drones, and he has +2 attack, means that Serral, well, he feels like he's too far behind. He's like, I can't drone up, I can't catch up, I'm already an upgrade down. He could easily take a 4th base. He's going to have so much gas, he might even go Spire. So Serral's like, well, let's get those Niduses back in, hope for the best. He has an Overseer rather, in position. Clicks on the Evo chamber, says, nope, we're doing this. Oh, no! But he lost track of his units. Let's go back. Let's go back. I'll show you exactly what happened. So this is the type of stuff we see that you don't always see in, like, the main cast. Or, well, either you see and you're like, why did he do that? Well, what happened is Serral was setting up his Nidus. And while he was doing it, this engagement happens, dances back and forth, but then the Nidus finishes. He's right-clicked. Serral, a rare, incredibly rare mistake, but he's right-clicked. And he's already lost so many Roaches. He's in such a bad position. He knows he's already down in upgrades. At this point, he's lost so many Roaches. He doesn't have the upgrades. The Nidus just started, but... believe me, Serral's played enough ZVZ to know where it goes from there. A rough spot, though. Like, that's something you don't see. That's a mistake that Serral rarely makes. That's something I would do in all of my games. But, just, okay. The next game, by the way, is on year 0. This is the best ZVZ I have seen probably in years. And one of the best games of StarCraft, definitely this year. but overall. We're going to switch back over to our Korean Zerg, soO, after he took back that last match. But Serral, a little bit off guard, a little bit behind on the upgrades, which is a serious sticking point. In a mirror matchup, having an upgrade advantage is important, especially if you're building the same units. But now this is a game, and if you haven't seen it yet, well, thanks for choosing to watch it here for the first time, but if you have seen it, it's definitely worth watching again. And, well, let's put it this way. If you watch this game and you're like, well, I don't want to watch this again, you're wrong, and you should feel bad about your opinion. Hatch first is the choice. It's going to be the same macro-oriented start. Neither side opting for an early pull. Mirror matchups are oftentimes a bit... not necessarily like a chess match, but a poker hand. There's a reason so many Starcraft 1 and 2 players either came from a poker background or went into one. Also, I can personally attest, especially Korean players, but many poker players are very into playing poker. If you want to interest many players, just start talking about poker. Actually, Slayer's Boxer, you might might be a name you recognize. Slayer's Boxer is apparently now a professional poker player in Korea. So, onwards and upwards. Doesn't take quite as much APM, I don't think. So, definitely factors in. Just the idea of working off of limited information and trying to send the wrong information to your opponents. So, what was I saying? Yeah, mirror matchups especially, where having a piece of tech or your opponent thinking that you have a piece of tech or an army or a certain number of workers, stuff like that, if you can bluff that, they make the wrong decision, you can easily capitalize. Even more so than in other matchups, because they have the same options you do. If you have 40 roaches and they have 20 because they thought you were going mutas, well, they lose. Starting out, another relatively slow start, as in we're both going to eventually get speed and things will speed up. But at this stage of the game, both players have near perfect vision. The Overlord placements again, specifically designed. Both sides are scouting for third bases, seeing any Zerglings coming out. He's looking for hidden Zerglings because he doesn't want some random Banelings coming in. This is a common tactic where those first scouting lings that Serral had, he could, well, soO found him. There you are. 2 Banelings. If Serral decided he wanted to go all in, having 2 Banelings morphing right next to soO's base as opposed to having to run all the way across is obviously incredibly helpful. He's not letting... It's just 2 Zerglings. It doesn't seem like a big deal. But 1 Zergling, 1 second, 1 attack can make all the difference. Yes, I'm foreshadowing. A medium amount of Zerglings, defensive, enough that he can make Banelings and zone out from those Banelings getting killed or picked off, but not enough that he is really slowing down his economy. Creep spread will start already an extra queen out of soO, so he can maybe push away Overlord, spread creep, and of course, go to the third. Third base on the way. Both sides adding more drones. Couple Banelings in the middle of the map. I'm not sure how many that is. 2 from soO, so they're slightly out of vision range. He sees the Overlord. Remember that air units, Overlord specifically, have more vision. 1 more vision range, which is a slight amount, but 1 more vision range than ground units. So that's why air superiority is a big deal with, like, TVT, and that's why knowing exactly how far an Overlord can see is important. Because just because you can't see them doesn't mean they can't see you. So soO now knows Serral just got a solid scout. He got in, he got plenty of information on upgrades, stuff like that. The Banelings at the front. Serral dances back and forth. He knows about the Banes now. Oh. Well, that shouldn't happen. Not a huge deal, but like, those are the kind of mistakes that Serral, of all people, should not and does not make. He just lost 10, 12 Zerglings to 2 Banelings and lost map control. And now Serral has to kind of scramble. He has to build another round of Lings. soO's already ahead in workers before this, remember. So that means soO can kind of compound that advantage in workers by getting them quicker. He doesn't have to make more Lings. Little mistakes like that, back to the poker analogy, really add up. So at some point, like Serral, he has to respond. He can't take the chance after losing those Lings that soO made 30 more Zerglings or a bunch of Roaches and is about to attack. He can't. So he has to build a handful more himself, and that leaves soO about a step ahead. This has manifested itself in apparently nothing. There's nothing that soO is ahead on, right? Wait, maybe the Roach count. Okay, yes, there it is, the Roach count. I'm like, well, Serral has quicker upgrades. He has about the same speed. It's the Roach count. soO's already been building up those +1 Roaches, making sure, 1, he can't be attacked, and 2, he has aggressive potential. And Roaches are not cheap. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they're pretty cheap. Just a couple more drones. Those were, at this point, Zerglings are kind of thrown by the wayside. They can't compete. +1 Roaches, 2-shot Zerglings. Usually they do 3, so Zerglings just do not stand up in any fight. Might as well try to get a Bane hit. Worker counts. Now, in mirror matchups and ZVZ specifically, having too many workers is not a good thing. Your armies, having 5 less Roaches will decide the battle. So soO and Serral both understanding that, 60, 65 workers. You won't see 80 drones like you'll see in ZVT. Or even sometimes Zerg versus Protons. They need to have as much army supply as possible, and of course, you got to be building Roaches. soO's going on the attack. He's got +2 a little bit later, but right now, the unit count, 32 Roaches and 4 Ravagers against just 24 for Serral, but of course, Serral has the defender's advantage, and he knows this is coming. soO behind it is taking a 4th base, so is Serral. The Corrosive Biles, a little sloppy from Serral. He already had Overlord speed, right? Yeah. I believe I remember Pig talking about this, but having those Overlords on patrol, making sure that no random Corrosive Biles are going to supply block you or take out Overlords they don't need to. It's almost impossible to hit them on patrol, especially overseas. Good luck with that. soO opens up some opportunities. I'm going to take pot shots. But a Baneling drop from Serral. But soO reacts. Serral botching it a little bit. There was an opportunity to do some damage, but soO reacts quickly enough that the follow-up Banes aren't able to get the huge connections. Wait a second. Does soO notice? His +2 has been contaminated. You can see it on the minimap. He uses the injects around it. Looks like he's using either camera locations or base camera, maybe a bit of both. So already has plenty here. soO's going to keep sharking around. The best defense, a good offense. He knows he's spotted. The thing is, literally just the time it takes to react. He's splitting off certain groups of units, and this is the attacker's advantage. Serral has less time. Whenever soO makes moves like this, Serral has less time to react. Because soO, worst case scenario, the attack gets deflected. He's not going to lose a base or drones if he mismanages. He might not take an advantage, but he won't lose one. He's actually moving in. The Roaches are going to the south as well. Corrosive Biles on both sides. He's throwing them out, trying to break up the concave of Serral. Reinforcements coming through. soO forced to back off, but there's a huge counterattack. Roaches in the 4th base, but soO has a big counterattack in the 3rd of Serral. He's on top of the drone. soO's moving back in towards the north. 9 drones have gone down for Serral. I'm not sure how many for soO so far. The drone count is 47 to 64. With a Korean Zerg player being significantly ahead, but that means Serral's army is more than likely, well, actually not larger for now. soO's handled this really well, but he lost a lot of Roaches at that south side. He has to rebuild them. Tit for tat there. soO's lost very slightly less. I'm not sure what the gas count is, but he's maintained an aggressive position, and Serral keeps being forced to respond. Using these speed dropper lords to get a little bit of counter damage, Serral did invest in tunneling claws, and I don't believe soO has spotted that out yet. The problem is, since these armies are so large, at this point, soO will see it. As you can see, the Roaches have that little extra icon. I will agree that the skins make it look a little tough to tell the difference. Which is a point of complaint, and I won't bring up any more now, because it takes too long to talk about. More Roaches towards the south. He's trying to bait Serral into miss-splitting his unit. Like, he wants Serral to have too much or too little. It's not a good thing to have way more roaches than your opponent in any location, especially as the defender. You want just enough, because it's not like, oh, he just has a small army. There's another army, and it might have more roaches if you split your army poorly. The attack to the south being driven back, Serral holding on to his 4th as well. Another roach drop coming in. soO has to decide exactly how much time to spend splitting this. He's got hotkeys for each of these, trying to move his way into the 4th. The drop in the main. I believe he rallied out some roaches to deal with it. Corrosive Bile's coming out. Neither of them really taking hits from it, but if they're not paying attention for a split second, and there you go, soO gets hit by some Corrosive Bile, and he's going to be forced off the engagement. Towards the 4th base, though, he's using his Serral's own hatchery against him. The Corrosive Bile's at the back. He's going to minimize the damage, but he has to stand his ground for now. The upgrades are +2 for soO, but +2, +1 for Serral, giving him a distinct advantage in any engagement that does not involve Corrosive Bile's landing. A Spire is on the way for soO, but he hasn't been able to save up any gas. He keeps building roaches and ravagers. If he doesn't find the space, now 3 or 4 mutas are enough to force a response out of Serral. They're going to require having Hydralisks or mutas of your own, or maybe even queens, but probably not in this scenario. I don't know if the Spire was scouted. It looks like there's an Overlord on the minimap nearby it for Serral. soO is now making some spine crawlers, indicating he probably wants to switch to mutas and be able to hold a big counterattack. Still a group of units down to the south. Serral defending his 4th. He took some damage on it earlier on, but it's still not that close to going down. I think he maybe a few transfuses. It's burning because of those simulant skins, but continuing to move forward. Corrosive Bile's in the midst of everything. soO eats some shots, but Serral gets caught up against his own hatchery. He's going to give up the base. soO takes a win. He draws enough army away, and a pretty solid trade. Now Serral's starting to lose significantly more units, but soO is coming down a ramp into better upgraded Roach Ravager. The Corrosive Bile's landing on some of his Ravagers, and I don't know how much longer he can press forward. The reinforcements of Serral will be popping out. He's really trying to maintain this aggressive posture here. He has to be careful. He risks Serral just winning a fight so completely, he's going to lose his own bases on the other side. soO is starting to realize that is far too many Roaches and Ravagers. The Queens come out for the last line of defense. A handful of mutas join production. The worker count 50 to 57 in favor of the Korean Zerg, but it really, favor is a bit of a looser term in this case because that means less army supply. 8 mutas on the way. When you're being aggressive with Roach Ravager and your opponent has less bases, this is the perfect time for Aspire because they don't have the extra resources for a big tech switch, and they can't immediately take advantage of your smaller ground army because they have to come across the map, and you can kind of box them out of doing that. So a great move, but Serral's already responding with Hydras. soO doesn't know that for sure. The mutas are good in and of themselves for sniping off things like Overlords, denying vision, making it a lot harder for Serral to split his units. +1 air attack on the way. He's actually going to double down. If Serral didn't scout the Spire or didn't respond to it, well, he's going to now. But mutas can be a fighting unit in and of themselves. If you get the upgrades, now Serral, he's sitting at +2, +1. A bit of a lull in the action. Serral can't be too aggressive because he has to respond. He has to build up the mutas to deal with, build up the Hydras to deal with the mutas, and he's been sitting back without as much production. It appears Serral's strategy is going to be to go for the most cost-effective army. And soO's strategy is to batter him down with a superior economy. But here comes Serral. He's got the Hydras in the mix. A beautiful concave for now. Corrosive Biles scattered throughout. He's going to throw a few up to the high ground. I don't know where the mutas are. The mutas do come in from the south. There are not too many Hydras there. Limited anti-air. But Serral is pushing forward. The Ravagers, very expensive and evaporating for now. There's enough Hydras left over that the mutas, they will try to pick them off. But Serral takes a win in the engagement. But that will not decide the war. soO has a lot of money in the bank. He still has some larvae to work with. He's been on top of those injects. In the next round of units, going to be very important to see what soO decides. Did he actually cancel the base because he felt like he needed a little more money? It looks like it. He just assumed Serral either would kill it or he just needs the money to deal with the counterattack. But Serral tucks tail and turns around. Kind of a surprising move, but he knows he doesn't have anything to really follow it up. Now soO has lost some more units, but he's also mined more. He's been on that 4th base, whereas Serral had to rebuild his. soO doesn't know for sure, but he's just assuming he has it. There hasn't been critical economic damage that would have denied it from existing. He switched right back off the mutas. They've kind of done their job. They allowed him to, while he lost the engagement, Serral didn't have a good enough position to push forward. So that allowed soO to leverage the additional economy he had. He killed the 4th base earlier, remember? He killed some drones, and he forced Serral to respond with a tech switch. So the mutas, their value has been reduced now, because he's already used them. Like, Serral has responded, he has the upgrades, he has a good ground army. So now that he has gotten that advantage from having the 4th base so much longer, you see that reflected in the supply. soO is back to a strong ground army, and he's just going to try to batter down Serral. It doesn't matter if he's cost ineffective, as long as he can deny Serral's economy or trade effectively enough that he can use that extra bank. Once again, soO trying to force Serral to split his units poorly. Serral not known for making mistakes like that often. There's been a couple moments here where it looked like Serral was slipping. Like, the Banelings early, that's barely anything, but it can apply. And at the 4th base, when he ended up losing some extra roaches and ravagers because of the pathing. soO has his army grouped up for now. 191 to 200 supply. There's potential blinding clouds. soO holding on, Serral holding on to him for now. So, soO doesn't even have a hive. Am I right? Yes. No infestation pit, no hive. Big counterattack out of Serral. Those Vipers, a great defensive unit. Now, Corrosive Bile doesn't care much about Blinding Cloud, but the rest of the units do. The Roach one gonna be sniped off. This might be Serral's opportunity to strike back. He cancels his burrow. Wait, did he cancel or did it finish? No, he cancels his burrow. But why? I'm not sure why he canceled his burrow. He has plenty of money, but he's just panicking. This is panic mode for soO. This counterattack has just enough roaches that he can't clean it up with reinforcements easily. It looks like now, as I say that, the reinforcements will clean it up, but he already lost some drones, and, of course, the roach one. Some abducts come in, but only a single Ravager will go down. Serral really holding on to that energy on his Vipers. soO still... Now, he's maxed. He's not maxed. He hasn't... Oh, he was waiting for his Roach Run to rebuild. That's why. Okay. I was wondering, like, is he going to tech switch? Are we going mutas? No. He didn't have a Roach Run. Coming in again. Now, I don't know about this engagement. The mutas are working their way. There's actually an attack at the south. soO hasn't even looked at it. He's now realizing he's got to split his roaches off again. When you're maxed out, there are no reinforcements. So soO, not staying maxed out for long enough to have that actual problem, because if his whole army is on the field, there's nothing popping out of those eggs. He's losing enough. He's tactically losing units. I can't say this is actually the case, but he's losing enough units that he always has more roaches and more army popping out to deal with counterattacks. Still, a lot of money in the bank. soO, the one thing he's lacking, upgrades and cost-effective units. At some point, Serral will be able to leverage the Vipers and use them in a straight-up engagement. And that time might be right now, as Serral moving into what was once the 4th base, I guess you could still call it. Corrosive Biles across the board. Where are the Blinding Clouds? Serral uses them. soO, he'll go forward. That means he's going to lose a lot of these Roaches and Ravagers. Is this the hill he wants to die on? 30 more Roaches on the way. He doesn't have any more larvae. That's actually the limiting factor right now. Using, well, morphing Ravagers with the badly bruised Roaches, because when they come back, they'll be full HP. Essentially, rebirth like a phoenix there without having Protoss involved. Some workers went down. soO is at 46. Serral at 42. Now, soO doesn't know exactly how many workers Serral has. He has a general idea. He knows how many bases, or at least mostly keeping tabs on them. The problem is, I'm actually surprised soO kept his base there. Serral had +3 attack and Vipers. I feel like if Serral had managed his Vipers a little bit better, he could have just broken through for sure there. But soO now splitting up into 2 big groups. The thing is, Serral may have overcommitted his units to the north. The Corrosive Biles land! That means he'll win the first part of the engagement, and he can kind of work his way through there. The Blinding Clouds at the back line will force him to retreat for now, but the first round of Corrosive Biles gave him enough momentum, and now so many units were committed that the attack to the south will take out one of Serral's key bases. The rest of the army comes down. The attack from the front. He's going to go for the flank. Beautiful blinding cloud. Serral is counterattacking. A group of roaches have already killed the base in the bottom right corner. He's trying to flank, but with less units. It's unclear who's going to come out on top of this fight. Serral must hold this base, or he has no income. But soO, at the same time, he's mining out, and his bases are being knocked out as well. Drones falling on both sides. Serral, his reinforcements just enough. Drones pulled to defend the roaches. He needs every single unit, 91 to 82 supply. Serral's units are so cost-effective, but soO just has so many more of them. The roaches and ravagers continue across. Serral has held his base. The worker count 28 to 28, perfectly even. Both players now on essentially 3/4 of a mining base. The one thing Serral has going for him in this scenario is that thankfully soO killed his base earlier, so he's not as close to mining it out. He gets the Overseer, which means keeping track of this army is just going to be that much harder. Changeling wars all over the place. We've gone from massively high economies and completely expendable units, especially in the case of soO, to every single one being precious.
Forces are under attack.
We've passed the point of high economy, of thousands of minerals and gas a minute, and each roach and ravager, like when queens are out on the open field, Brenda, I didn't sign up for this. Well, the war has turned. And now the queens must be drafted into battle, however slowly it takes them to get there. Corrosive Biles looking for an opportunity, but those patrol guards not going to be going down quite yet. Still, soO. Roach Ravager gives you the ability to engage and disengage pretty effectively because of the Corrosive Biles. You still got to be careful. Ravagers are a clunky unit. And if they get out of position, they will die very quickly. Once again, soO been working down and upgrade this entire time. Oh, actually, he has +2 Carapace and Serral doesn't. So that makes up some of the gap. It's still better to have the attack upgrades. Maybe some Abducts here. Blinding Cloud. Serral just putting those Vipers. He's flaunting them. He's trying to get soO to back off without having to use a Blinding Cloud. Corrosive Biles will catch one of the Overseers. Here we go again. The dance continues. The Queen slowly driving back the Vipers. The splits. Neither willing to commit to a fight. Roaches on both sides. The Queens come up from both sides. Everyone is involved. Before, there would be a counterattack or some roaches out on the map, but neither feels like they can afford it. This is incredible. Like, you can see how neither player wants to commit. The Queen slaughtered in cold blood. Serral is trying to build up enough army to win a decisive engagement. He's hoping soO will pick one. So those Vipers, the Vipers are the key. The Vipers, if soO goes a little bit too far, then the Blinding Cloud is devastating. A single roach counterattack. We've gone from 20 roaches to 1 as potential counterattack. Maybe some Abducts. Oh, Corrosive Bile. I think that might have been his own Corrosive Bile. I'm not sure. You can't tell. They hit everyone. Serral's base is found. This is what Serral was going to try to posture and hope that soO didn't find this. Now, does Serral move in? soO sees it on the minimap. Does he back off or does he engage? He's committing. soO is committing. If going here means he's letting Serral get a position to fight. There's no escaping from this position. He cannot get out unless Serral lets him go. Will Serral let him go? No. Hell no. The Ravagers pulled out to start. The kidnappings have begun. Serral really wants to pick a fight. I'm surprised he didn't try to cut him off. But it's really hard for both players to gauge exactly how much economy and how many more units are being reinforced. Beautiful shots. Gonna deny some more vision. He did barely back off. Another round of shots. Serral will dodge it. He's on the chase. soO still ever the aggressor, but not able to quite break through. soO is mining from the bottom right now. This is super important. Super important. I know. Hydra Speed and Range are done. The Changelings, target down. He doesn't see the little timer. Those look like Zerglings to him, but considering nobody's making Zerglings, that's confusing and a bit of a giveaway. Big counterattack from Serral. Does soO go forward? Or does he go back? He can't go back. He's going forward. I covered all the options. The Corrosive Bile's gonna zone out for now, but this means soO has more army at the front. Serral with a better defensive composition. Beautiful blinding clouds, but soO goes right through him. The Corrosive Biles. Queens at the back. Transfuse super important. If you get bottled up like Serral, his Corrosive Bile becomes devastating. The Queen's buying some time. Serral retreats up his ramp. soO can go to the 3rd or the 4th or whatever you want to call it. Broodling's coming down. What did he even kill? Oh, Serral had to kill one of his own buildings to escape. The drones are exposed. Where is Serral's army? His counterattack is devastating soO's. 15 drones on both sides. Down goes the last mining base of Serral. More roaches. soO is coming back to save all the rest of his economy, of which now he's going to have less drones than he started with. He's at 11. There's essentially no more mining. The pieces are set. The board is set. 27 roaches and 8 ravagers for soO, with 2/2 upgrades against 20 roaches, 10 ravagers, 3 hydras, and 2 very, very important vipers. The income? Minuscule. The army's irreplaceable. soO has just enough to re-expand. Serral finds another engagement. The Corrosive Bile's on both sides. Blinding Count in the center mass, but he's still able to cast the Corrosive Bile. Blinding Cloud is going to force the units to split. The Roach Ravager count dwindling on both sides. Serral loses the southern flank, but at the north he wins the fight. 30 to 32 to 32 supply. 26 minutes and 40 seconds into the game. Barely double-checked. Drones are pulled off the line. Corrosive Biles may be landing. Not quite. Even the Overlords to muck things up. And Abduct is used. The Ravager slaughtered. More roaches on the way. His last roaches. He has no gas. A lot of these roaches badly brewed. Serral is on the chase. There's not enough energy for a blinding cloud. Serral gets caught out. The drones are in the front, but the target fire from soO. It all comes down to this. There's next to no units. The drones kill a roach. The drones in front of everything. 3 roaches to 2. More drones. He's got one last roach. He dances around. There's no more units for Serral. He's lost everything. He's lost the game. How does it come when you have a drone rush at the 27-minute mark? Serral, I don't know. Like, the thing is for Serral, did he have vision? Is this Serral's Ovi? I have to see. Serral saw the base. Serral felt pressured like, I gotta go. I gotta do it. He pulled all his drones, of which were his best fighting units. He got caught a little out. He didn't feel like he had time to get more Viper energy. If he went back, he might not have realized how poor soO actually was. There's no way for Serral to know that 10 more roaches aren't about to pop out. Or at least a handful, which would have been enough. There's no way to know. He can guess, but what he doesn't know is that soO didn't even have the money for 1 more roach. There's nothing in production. It's just this base. And that's why Serral felt like, I gotta go. I gotta go. It's not going to get better from here. And he kind of got drawn into... Now, you can be like, well, why did he get his units caught in the middle of the map? Well, almost 100,000 resources, of which soO lost 5,000 more later. 440-something units lost on both sides, most of which were roaches. It's impossible to point to any one decision. I love the split of styles as well. The soO with the constant aggression and trying to force mistakes out of Serral, whereas Serral just holding, bending, not breaking until maybe at the very end. Maybe it's really hard to know exactly how many units to commit. And he overcommitted a little to a counterattack, didn't have quite enough for the main engagement, and we get down to the point where it is 3 roaches and a Ravager against 2 hydras, 2 roaches, one of which is on the way, and some drones, with Vipers looking very sad about the situation. It almost literally does not get closer than that. Neither can build even 1 roach. Even 1. And the series isn't over. soO's up 2-1. What a game. All right. Just shut down the tournament. Just all right, you guys, just split the prize. Well, actually, no. soO has to get more spoilers. But shut it down. We're done. Not getting better than that. But Jimmy says it's time. Everybody's all excited. Like, are there going to be more amazing games like that? Maybe. So time to run a quick ad. Thank you guys for watching. Be back. If you could pause ad block, that'd be awesome. Thank you guys again. And we'll be back with game number 4 in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Winter, and I'm here to talk to you about very exciting things. Did you know, on YouTube, if you ring the bell, all right, you down there, or on Twitch, if you press the following, but also there's like another thing you do. Is there a bell on Twitch too? Like for extra notifications to annoy you on your phone? I don't know, but there might be. I think there's like follow and then like, but really though, I actually want to follow this person. I didn't just do that to get a notification. Something like that. Where is this music from? This is our proprietary music. For those that don't know, that our track here at the studio is generic 80s infomercial music. And you can pick it up today for the low price of Googling it. It's a heart. It's a heart. So ring the bell. Don't break my heart. Do all the exciting things. Comment. Oh my God, I could have micro that road Ravager better than Serral. Something important, something relevant like that. And make sure to check out all the videos and streams because you might miss something. It's almost certain that whatever you miss will not be as good as the game we just watched. But you might miss something. So don't take that risk. Don't take that chance. Don't miss anything. Heart and ring and subscribe and all of that. And most important, I will get more money. Thank you. Good luck, have fun. And back to your originally scheduled program.
Wow.
Game 4, Cyber Forest. We're back to Serral's perspective. Hey, cut it! Cut! Thank you. If I press the button correctly. Will we see any early pulls? Sometimes I zoned out. I completely zoned out. Oh, pull first, pull first. Pull first. Pull first. Okay. Well, there is no pull first, but sometimes players, like, on match point on either side, that's the time to break out the cheese. That's the time to break out the cheese. So, overall, now, neither of these players are doing that. I don't know if that's a testament to how, like, lack of nerves, or if that's just what they feel is the highest percentage play. But it's a pretty common strategy. For, you go up, you're on match point, you just hit them with something that 40% chance you just win. Like, for example, if soO did a well-executed 12-pool drone pull. If he did, then there's a good chance Serral would lose. Because he's going for a relatively greedy, without a safe Overlord pathing hatch first. But imagine if Serral either scouted it, or decided to go for a safe pool first. Then guess what? soO, there's a good chance soO also just loses. Or vice versa. Hatch first is the highest percentage play for players of this caliber, especially these ones. And that's why, I think that's 4 in a row. that every single game has been these hatch first without any drone scout. Drone scouting is very rare, especially in ZVZ, just because overlords exist. We will see. And honestly, that last game, it really felt... soO did not have... He didn't have the tech. He was just relying on Serral making little mistakes. Not big mistakes, little mistakes. And Serral eventually made enough that we reached the breaking point. Now, the breaking point was a long while into the game. It wasn't like, gotcha. But so many, like, how long did we sit there going back and forth with like 150 supply, throwing out corrosive bow on cooldown? It was like 2 minutes straight of neither player, like, losing one or two roaches. If either player gets hit by a big corrosive bow or gets a little out of position, then the other jumps on him. But they did not break. Wow, both playing really safe. So on Cyber Forest, the creep from your main easily reaches... This is a big factor in ZVZ builds. The creep from your main easily reaches to... what am I saying? My brain. Easily reaches to your natural ramp, which means you can wall off without having a creep come in. Now, this is the case for many maps, but on a map where that's not the case, and you don't have a ramp as well, you're kind of obligated to go for Zerglings with speed and usually a bane lane nest. Because otherwise you get caught out. And, well, Zerglings with speed can deny your third for quite a while. Serral is going for a third. soO, not. This reminds me a little of game 1, where Serral opted to go for the third base and delay his lair, whereas soO went for the lair and early roach speed. So deja vu. Same thing. The lair for Serral is later. He's going to have significantly later roach speed. But he's going to have +1, he's going to have a third, and he's going to be popping out roaches. So he's going to have to sit back and defend. There's no way Serral can be aggressive until he has lair tech of some kind. It's just impossible. Especially against a player who's obviously building a lot of units early, because he's expanding so late. Just gotta take a breather after game 3. Like, just calm down. Do good old-fashioned, just build up roaches. But that game, though, years, oh my god. Jeez.
Our forces are under attack.
Now the information war. Both players have to kind of figure out, are you droning? Are you tacking up? Are you getting more upgrades, or are you attacking? And both are going to try to deny and give false information. Like right now, look at the minimap. soO has denied Serral scouting if roaches are coming across the map. So Serral has to kind of make educated guesses about whether or not soO's coming across with like overwhelming amounts of roaches, or he's sitting back building a spire. Now that Serral has speed finishing, he feels a lot safer moving out, because his roaches, if appropriately managed... Oh my god! You see how important speed is? Jesus, the timing. This is the second time. This happened last time, too. soO had just enough energy for a contaminate and delays roach speed like 3 seconds before it finishes, and Serral immediately pulls back. He's like, well... You can hear the sigh in his roaches. You can hear it. And now it's done. Oh, and he goops the +2. The double goop strats. But that's not going to stop Serral from moving across the map. I love it. I love the goop strats there. The contaminates. Serral's going for Overlord speed. He wants to be able to keep a bead without getting sniped off. That amount of gas is a little suspicious, but Serral also has the gas there. What is the worker count? Serral's up by 10. So, if soO doesn't hit a deadly timing with his +2 finishing, Serral's in a great spot. He's got more workers, and he's had more gas income, translating into more Ravagers or a potential tech switch for quite a while. So, I think Serral is correctly, based on his information he got from his overseer on the other side. He's like, I have more drones than you, so that's usually good. He's a smart guy. Alright. Too many more drones is bad, but like 10 more drones, that's great here. Yeah. 63 is about the limit in the Roach Ravager scenario, especially when your opponent is really looking to do an all-in. I'm just staring at the micro on both sides. Look how subtle it is. The little tiny moves. Actually, that was a couple big hits there. Serral got just enough. His corrosive vials scattered on a couple roaches. And the reinforcements are coming in from the side. Serral protecting... Remember, Serral's doing this without +2. Look how important the queens are. The select all queens hotkey that Serral loves. The queens with their transfuses on key targeted units, as well as managing the corrosive vials, just barely enough. But now that lead... As soon as Serral finishes +2, he has every advantage. He's going to have just as many roaches, if not more. Ravagers, same upgrades, and more economy. He has perfect vision. There's some contaminates on the hatcheries, which denies spawn larva. The larva injects. But now Serral's like, okay, am I as ahead as I think I am? This is the Overseers. I love the mini-map, by the way, in ZVZ. It's a mess. He's like, do you have a Spire? Do you have a 4th base? You got, like, lurkers? No? Okay. Like, got it. All right. I'll take it. The goop. No second gas. Scouts the whole creep. No Spire. Same thing. Oh, double goop. The counter goops. So while right now Serral is even on supply, what is the Roach and Ravager count? 7 Ravagers for Serral, 2 for soO. You have to have 4 Ravagers to one-shot Overlords, and if you only have 1 or 2 corrosive vials, they don't even really need a micro out of it. You need 5, 6, 7 before it becomes something important to contend with. Serral just focused on maxing out. I believe his 4th base is quicker, and he does as well. There's no reason, if he's constantly scouting, for a tech switch. So soO is in a rough spot. Like, he knew he had less economy. He didn't quite win the fight. And he can't risk tech switch. The risk is that if he tech switches, Serral just comes and punches him in the face with way more roaches. And also, especially if he gets scouted, like if an Overseer comes in, the Spire's 80% done, Serral punches him in the face. More roaches. The best chance for soO is to get to a max out and then control his army better. And that's what he's doing. Serral, on the other hand, is adding some more tech and being maxed out with a bigger bank. So even if this fight goes soO's way, he can reinforce. Now soO splitting off. Serral will defend again. Deja vu. Serral has less roaches. Basic math. But the vision is on the army in the center. Just the sheer speed at which they have to manage their armies is ridiculous. Going back and forth, both sides have to throw out the corrosive vials, add on more production, make sure you hit the larva injects, making sure you keep track of where these units are going, you don't get flanked from either side. Burrow move, as well as +1 Carapace are now done, so giving Serral a +1 upgrade advantage, and he's continued to mine off these bases. Great concave for Serral, and with that, now with Burrow move, when you Burrow move, you regenerate HP more quickly as well. So if you don't win a fight decisively, but you do win a fight, those roaches can burrow and come back at full HP as well, making it even more annoying and effective. It gives you longevity and more cost effectiveness in these battles. But Serral always knows, soO's always sharking around looking for an opportunity to split his roaches up. This time Serral, though, he's dancing to the side. Corrosive vials on both sides. A beautiful flank. Serral's moving in from the south. He's got a single roach trying to block units from firing all on the same thing. Little tiny bits of micro there. Burrows all the roaches. I believe that was a control click. Did you notice he just injected his hatcheries? Moving on. All right. Calm down, Serral. No, don't calm down. You're down 2-1. No, this is no time for caution. Serral just pushing forward. He has the upgrade advantage. He has more Ravagers. soO had to rebuild his Ravagers. He can continue to force soO off the concave and leverage. Look at the supply. That tells the story. It might look like soO is enough, but he just keeps going forward and going forward. More roaches, more economy, more production. He has better upgrades and more Ravagers. That's all that matters. Serral strikes back. He'll be taking this one. There's nothing for soO. There's no mutas, there's no lurkers. He has less units, less economy, less upgrades, and less hope. Yeah, more burrow move. We're getting very close to the dramatic conclusion as Serral is sending too many units for soO to deal with. He's got just more. It's a numbers game now. GG! soO taps out. We'll be going to the ace match. Game number 5. Serral with in his element there. A near perfect defense. And with less upgrades, which means you cannot make mistakes. There's nowhere to retreat to. Where are you gonna go? He's already on your hatcheries. Your drones are right there. Game 5. Away we go. We're watching from the Korean Zergs perspective from Team Chivo. I hope I'm saying that right. It's soO. Kairos Junction. We saw essentially the same game twice. Well, the games have been pretty similar. The first game a little bit of an outlier with Serral's Nidus. soO being the aggressor with Roach Ravager, and Serral being the defender with a better economy, but usually less units and upgrades. The Queen's coming out at the right time. Very important. Soaking damage, adding transfuse. You have to know, like, the decision is actively, consciously made by Serral and soO when it's appropriate. I don't need injects, because if I don't have the Queens fighting with me, the injects won't matter, because I'll be dead. And that is the opportunity cost there of putting the Queens in the fight. If you need them to survive, well, then they fight. If you can survive without them, then they inject. Now, soO doesn't know for sure, but we know it. It's a hatch first again. 5 games in a row. No early pulls, no cheese. We're gonna start from the same builds and then move. Well, probably roaches. There's been a little bit of Ling Bane, but the usual just skirmishes back and forth. The question, like, that's the beginning of the poker game, is how many Lings do you make? How many, do you make any main Lings? Do you try to bait your opponent into overreacting? And if you bait them too hard and they make too many units, then do you overreact? And the dance continues. Same thing with the roaches. Like, we saw Serral working with very limited info. And now, if I was truly looking to get a total perspective, not only would I watch the games like I did with the standard cast, but I'd watch both sides individually in first person. I kind of like splitting the difference by going back and forth between the players. You can see little stylistic choices. I mean, you can really see the way that soO plays with his Roaches and Ravagers compared to how Serral likes to play more defensive and really focus on getting all that vision. Speaking of vision, Serral going to spot the lair starting. Is that a fake? It's a fake. Well, it might be a fake. I'm not sure. Because he started it after the Lings. He knew the Lings were going to get in. Does he care? Serral already soon enough would know based on the lack of third base. It's not Zergling speed. He's not going to cancel the lair at this point. I believe Serral just got vision of those gas geysers, but the thing is, this roach build is such a sharp timing. It doesn't matter. There's nothing Serral can't be like, I have the hard counter now that I spotted this. It's just one of those builds, one of those styles that even if you know, like, soO could have gone over to Serral and been like, I'm gonna go +1 roaches with speed. And Serral would be like, yeah, obviously. Like, of course, he made Serral work a little for the information, but not very much in the grand scheme of things. And once again, it's going to be Serral, 3 bases, playing defensive, against +1 roaches with speed and a later third. Here we go again for the final match. Oh, but Serral, enough lings to put some serious pressure onto the third base. The lair is spotted out. The fact it's not done, but it's building is very important information for soO. He's going to have to cancel his third, does it at the last second to maximize the amount of time the lings are tied up. So Serral with a small victory, canceling that third base is important. Allows him more time to really take advantage of his more bases, as he's going to be behind in the roach speed upgrade. Now, we see the Overseers. That's one of those things. Oh, I love, like, look at this scouting from Serral. I know soO's doing plenty, but soO's the more passive player right now. He doesn't have speed on anything yet. It's about to. What was I saying? But this is one of those Twitch chat grandmaster things that only recently have players really started factoring in. We're at that level of StarCraft 2, where things that were way over the top, out of the question, are now becoming, like, default. And by that I mean things like Contaminate on Overseers. The ability to stop production on a building for a certain amount of time. Not only is it something you see used regularly, but it's used intentionally. It's not like, I have an Overseer, we're going to Contaminate. You get an Overseer for Contaminate. I mean, scouting as well. It has multiple purposes, but... So, soO has his third coming up. What's the worker count? Serral has a couple more. Mining with a fresh base is usually better in terms of income. Like, if you have 50 drones, but they're split between 3 bases, you usually have more income than between 2, because they have fresher patches and they don't get interrupted mining as much. So, now, watching this live, you'll hear the casters talk about this a lot, and it's very important. Serral started +1 carapace instead of +2 attack. soO doesn't know that. He assumes it's +2 attack, because the attack upgrades are critical in Roach Ravager versus Roach Ravager. An attack upgrade makes a Roach or Ravager take less shots to kill another Roach than +1 carapace negates. So what that means is it's just more cost effective, and they're all ranged units too. So especially if you're an aggressive player like soO, you find a fight you like, that attack upgrade, it kind of does double duty, because you're not getting attacked as much, and you have more units attacking. There's a counter Contaminate. But soO already used 2 goofs, so even if it was +2 attack, Serral would not be getting it. The attack upgrades are just... You always see. You can see how important they are. You've seen it in every game so far. It's always the priority, and it's such a big mistake. And I think Serral, I'm pretty sure he commented on some point, but it's a mistake not getting +2, and it's a mistake that is going to make these fights much harder, because in even money units, it's going to be all the math is thrown off. These players have played, they're in this situation, dozens of Roaches, half a dozen Ravagers. They played this thousands of times, and they know, like, about how many Roaches and what position are going to come out on top. If Serral doesn't realize that he has +1 carapace instead of +2 attack, all that math is thrown off. Units start dying at different times. He's not getting as much damage done. It's not the end of the world. A great position with Roaches and Ravagers changes everything. And interestingly, soO is the one playing defensive here. He's waiting for his +2. He'll move out when he has +2 done, right? Of course. He now has He's at maximum power. He's reached maximum power. And at this point, he can keep clicking on Serral's units. You don't have +2. You don't have +2. If he has an upgrade advantage and he's maxed out, especially if he knows Serral is taking a 4th, why would you sit back? There's no advantage to sitting back. The advantage is to attack. The Corrosive Bile zoning out to the south. soO stands his ground to allow the Roaches and Ravagers to move into position. Counterattack out of Serral will be, well, he'll force a response out of soO. The reinforcements are coming out, but Serral's going to be killing a lot of drones. He has to scramble back into position. The third base will be under attack. He realizes Serral has to go all the way around. He was caught between a bit of a rock and a hard place, and now the third base is kind of a force field for soO. Serral can't really easily get into position, and some of his units were committed across the map. soO, the better concave. He just jumped right on this opportunity. He didn't waste any time on the 4th. He went straight for the 3rd, straight for the jugular. And if he kills the 3rd, the 4th is sure to follow. Overseer's dying to random Corrosive Biles on both sides. Serral has the advantage of reinforcements coming in quicker, but he has to work against his own hatchery. A lot of drones falling on both sides. Serral might be able to hold on to this for now, but those upgrades really paying off for soO. He just has the numbers, and he has the position. Enough Corrosive Biles have landed, and he's thinned out Serral's forces. The 4th base will go down no matter what. The 3rd may fall, and with it, Serral's capability of production. He's broken the Finnish Zerg's back. He's pushing forward. The drone's off the line. Corrosive Bile zoning out as well. The economy gutted. The Roach count is too damn high. The Ravagers in the back, even a Contaminate. Why not throw it in the mix? There's no counterattack out of Serral slowing this down. The base is gone. The drones are dead. The 4th can easily be taken as well. 2 shots and it's down. G. Serral taps it out, and soO takes it. The control on the Roach Ravager. Even, yes, if Serral had +2, I don't know. Maybe he holds. Critical mistake. He almost had +2 done by the time he tapped out of the game. But soO, he knew, and this is where knowing the maps, like, this isn't, we're not playing Dota, it's a different map. Some maps it takes longer to get from the middle of the map all the way to your 3rd. And soO, knowing he was actually at an advantage. If he jumps right into the 3rd, he might be able to get in there before Serral can wedge himself in between the hatchery and the choke point. As I didn't even have that showing, but like this area, Serral had to go back up and around, whereas soO just kind of moved in. So you can kind of see the chess pieces there. Whereas he gave up some units in the middle of the map, just causing a fight in the middle of the map means that he cut off the opportunity for Serral to be in position in time. Like fighting here, even though it didn't go great for soO, means that if Serral's going to back off from the fight, which eventually he probably will, because he has inferior upgrades, soO can slide over to this position and wedge himself in, and if Serral, well, it's almost impossible for Serral to get out in front of it. soO continues to move on. The semifinals, beating the favorite. It's weird to say, Serral was the favorite. He's the favorite in pretty much every match. He's the champion of the world. But the king is dead. Long live the king. soO does it. By that much. Hope you guys enjoyed the commentary, the breakdown from first person. As opposed to, the casters did a great job. Pig, incredible ZVZ caster. But you get a little bit of something different by watching them play in first person, what they're looking at, how they're controlling, than just a standard, like, observing. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Comments, criticisms, praise, smash that like button, ring the bell, subscribe, all that shit. Thank you. Hope you enjoy.